Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about the Murdaugh murder trial down in South Carolina. I'll have more in just a moment. So, Alec Murdaugh is on trial right now for the murder of his wife and son, and he will later be on trial for some financial crimes that he committed. And I want you to know going into this that a lot of these statements that I'm going to make today are my conclusions based on the evidence that I've heard. But we have to keep in mind that a jury is the only person or the only entity that can speak to whether or not he committed the murders that he's accused of. So you should not presume that anything I say is evidence or that any of my opinions in any way ought to influence anyone. You ought to make up your own minds about what happened here. I want to talk a little bit about the issue of being a lawyer and what that all means, and especially when you're at the partner level as he was in this law firm. When you're at the partner level, you not only have responsibility for yourself, you have responsibility for all the associate attorneys who work for you, and you are basically putting the bread and butter on the table of every employee that works for you. There's a lot of stress involved with that. And there's a lot of stress involved with being the boss, frankly. That's kind of what goes with the territory, really. But some people deal with that better than others. I have worked in a couple of law firms in my time, and I saw some partners that dealt with it very, very well, and some partners who did not deal with it well at all. Many of the people, many lawyers, I think, have alcohol abuse problems. It's a legal drug, and you can drink alcohol whenever you want, as long as you don't drive with it. And I think that a lot of times lawyers think, well, it's the safe way to deal with my stressors. And of course, it is not a safe way to deal with anybody's stressors. Alcohol is not necessarily good for you. A small amount here and there, wine particularly, tends to be medicinal. But for the most part, consumption of refined alcohol, distilled alcohol, is just not a good thing in most cases. I put that out because I think a lot of the issues that Murdaugh wound up having stem from a substance abuse problem. During the trial, there's been testimony that he's been taking pills and that he's told his partners that he has drug addictions. And if that's true, again, that can make someone do things that they might not otherwise do. In the first law firm that I went to work for, they had a partner who had some kind of substance abuse problem, and he was a very good lawyer. He managed to get big settlements in cases, and then he would steal the settlements, and he would tell the clients that they had lost at summary judgment or some other lie, and many of them found out only when they were notified by the law firm that they had been ripped off. But the law firm did the right thing and made those clients whole as a result. So there are the bottom line is it's a stressful job, and that a lot of times those stresses can build up to the point where people either self-medicate with alcohol or prescription drugs or sometimes non-prescription drugs. And the result of that is a steady declining spiral of mental health. And as a result, that's, I think, what happened here. One of the things that always amazes me is that a lot of professionals, doctors and lawyers particularly, have huge defense mechanisms when it comes to admitting that they are addicted to something. They're the first ones to say, yeah, I have a drink now and then, but I can handle it. Well, in many cases they can, but in some others they can't. And when it gets out of hand, a lot of times they wind up not just losing their job, they wind up losing their career. The bar will step in when you have stolen money from clients and disbar you, as it should. When you steal money from clients, that's like the gravest sin that a lawyer can commit. Part of the problem that Alec faced was a lawsuit that was brought on behalf of a young woman who died when Paul Murdaugh, Alec's son, was operating a boat, and there was a boating accident, and this young lady was killed. And Murdaugh was sued for negligent entrustment for allowing his inebriated son, I guess, to take the boat out. And his son was sued for wrongful death. Both of them were sued for wrongful death, just on different theories of liability. And the lawsuit was progressing. It was fairly close to going to trial. I would suppose that it's rational to believe that Alec Murdaugh saw an opportunity to solve some of his problems in one fell swoop. If his son is dead, there is no principal actor in the wrongful death accident. The only person left in that lawsuit would be Alec Murdaugh, and the claim against him was always much weaker than the claim against the person operating the boat. So he would get a sizable benefit from his son shuffling off. And I suspect that he did, if indeed he did commit this murder, and we'll have to wait for the jury's verdict to find out if they believe he did. But if he indeed did that, he could have very easily escaped liability for that. And he probably could have engendered enough sympathy among his peers and partners to allow him not to be reported to the bar for the funds that he had misappropriated. We will never know, however, if that's the case, because while he planned what he considered, I'm sure, to be the perfect crime, because there are a lot of lawyers who think they're smarter than everybody else, because he planned this perfect crime, there were a number of things that he did not plan for or take into account. One of them is cell phone evidence. When you carry around a cell phone in your pocket, you are carrying around not just something that will allow you to talk to anyone you can choose to dial on the phone. You are carrying around a computer that attaches to and connects with towers in your area so that your general location can be spotted. And it also tracks with information that you receive on the phone and information that you put on the phone. So when I flip out my phone to go take a video at Disney World, the time and date of that video are buried in the data inside the camera, inside the phone. And as a result of that, we can know precisely when that camera was activated, and we can be sure that the times are accurate because they depend on GPS readings from satellites far above head. It is apparent that Alec Murdaugh did not know that his son was taking a video of one of the dogs in the kennel. Because if he had known that, he probably would not have spoken out during that filming. He would have known that that would have linked him to the site where they were murdered. But instead, he is heard audibly on the audio tape or audio portion of the video saying something to his son or to his wife. Irrespective of what it was that he said, that links him to the time and place of the murders. Now, the police believe because the cell phones of the mom and the son both ceased operation at about the same time, that the video that was recorded only a few minutes before they were both killed. As a result, that one glitch in his plan may prove to be his undoing. Another glitch is that his statement to the cops was that he went back to the house, took a nap, went to go visit his mother, and then he came home and found the bodies. In setting this up, he talked to the woman who was taking care of his mom and told her that if anybody asks, she should say that he was there for a longer period of time than he was there, 30 to 40 minutes instead of the 21 minutes that he was apparently there. That is a very, very bad thing to do. If you try to tell witnesses what to say under oath, There are a lot of really good people who actually pay attention to that oath and who are not going to lie for you. No matter how much money and power and prestige you have in a small community, they are not going to lie for you. And indeed, the woman who was taking care of his mother did not lie for him. She said that he was a good person because he offered to help with her wedding costs, but she also said that he was only there for 20 minutes and told the full story. And then there was a conversation that he had with his housekeeper where he essentially said that he had a bad feeling or something. The long and short of it is that he planted these little seeds in people's memories, and in planting those seeds, he was really not very subtle about it. It looked to me, and I think it probably looked to the jury, like he was trying to establish an alternate timeline that he could point to and say, see, it wasn't him, it wasn't me, it was some guy behind a tree that killed my wife and son. The other rather interesting piece is that he talked with his housekeeper about the missing shirt. The shirt that he was wearing in his Snapchat video shot earlier on the day has apparently never been found. And whether that might be exculpatory or inculpatory is kind of a moot question at this point. It can't be found. And the person who last had control of that shirt was Alec Murdaugh. So I think another rather important part of this is the motive. He had these financial misdeeds that he had done. He had basically stolen money from clients. And as a result of that, he had to get money back to replace that money. And of course, one way to do that is through life insurance. And I'm certain that he probably had life insurance on both his wife and his son. So there is a potential financial motive for it there, plus the motive of avoiding the liability under the lawsuit. And then finally, I have watched the demeanor of the prosecutor and I've watched the demeanor of the defense counsel. Now, a lot of times what goes on in court is a bit of an act. A prosecutor might get outraged at what happened to a victim. And he isn't really outraged at that moment. He is essentially telling the jury to be outraged. In this particular case, the prosecutor has been completely professional and hasn't resorted to any of those kinds of theatrics. The defense, on the other hand, has reacted and has done some theatrical type things. One of the theatrical things that they did is they brought in Murdaugh's whole family to be there on the first day of trial to essentially show the jury that, hey, his family thinks he's a decent guy and couldn't have done this. And I suppose that from a strategic point of view, that might not have been such a bad idea. But waiting until the jury was seated to bring the family in and sort of make a show of it is, I think, both unprofessional and liable to be seen as too cute by half. So the other thing that bothers me about the defense is that they seem to always be angry about something. Now, that could be because they're losing on most of the evidentiary motions that they filed. They filed motions to keep out evidence of the financial crimes. They filed motions to keep out a lot of different evidence. And as a result of that, a lot of those decisions have not been going favorably to them. And I think that's the kind of thing that can make a lawyer angry. But when you get up and you question witnesses in an angry manner, usually that's off-putting to a jury. A jury isn't going to feel the same kind of emotion that the defense attorney feels because they're neutral. They're just trying to decide what happened. And when they see somebody demeaning a witness or being ugly to a witness or even talking tersely to a witness, that has an impact on them in a fact-finding role. And lawyers are counseled never to belittle or make fun of witnesses on the stand, no matter what stupid thing they say. And to always be kind to witnesses, even if you disagree with them. And that's because people react a lot better to kindness than they do to ugliness. You know, it's like your mother always told you, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And I would also point out again that Sheldon Cooper of the Big Bang Theory often says that if you really wanted to catch flies, you would use feces because flies are far more attracted to feces than they are to honey. So what am I saying here? Well, I'm really saying I think that a lot of what is going on in the defense of Mr. Murdaugh is essentially slinging feces. It's an attempt to throw as much doubt on the prosecution's case as possible without actually having any terrific evidence to back that claim up. Now, I don't fault the attorneys for trying to discredit the state's case. That is absolutely their job. Their job is to come in and by cross-examination illustrate the fact that somebody didn't have the capacity to see something that they say they saw. Their job is to question their memory. Their job is to push back on all the relevant things and try and frame the issues very closely and use these things to argue at the end of the case that while the case may have some merit on the face of it, well, there's all these problems with the prosecution's case, and as a result, you should acquit my client. I've tried that in a criminal case before. It did not work for me, and I think the main reason it did not work for me is that the guy was guilty as sin. And the jury saw that, and they convicted him. And I suspect that is likely going to be what you see in the Murdaugh case. Now, many of you may also know that realize that I'm not putting up video up here to show you. And that's because I assume that if you are interested in the Murdaugh case, you're already watching the live streams, or you're watching the summaries of the live streams from places like Law and Crime and Rekieta Law, other places that feature that live stream. I don't pirate other people's live streams and I don't pirate other people's video because I don't think that for the most part that is the right thing for a YouTube creator to do. I know y'all probably get tired of looking at me, particularly on a video like this where I'm just talking about one thing and don't have a lot of video to go with it. But I would rather do that and create something that is novel and unique and that is entirely mine than to piggyback off of the efforts of other people that are also trying to create good content on here. So that's what I have for you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, tell everybody. I would love to have more people come here and learn about the law and hopefully gain some insights into what's going on in different trials. If you would like more content on the Murdaugh case, please let me know. I will try and give you that information. Thanks again for watching. Be kind to people today, and as always, have a marvelous day. I will catch you on here next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.